You can't laugh at that.
That whole misinterpretation of, I mean, who am I to interpret scripture or whatever? But it seems antithetical to see like certain behaviors matched with the beliefs that they're spouting. It's like, okay, so your guy said this thing, but then you're doing the other thing. Help me out here. Like, please help me bridge this gap. Because it's like, all right, so do you want abortion, or do you want like kids to have safe sex? Because people are going to have sex. People are going to be driven by those things. There are a few that won't. So like, how can we really get to the core of this? How can we provide the means so that people have proper sex education? Like, you can't just live under a rock. And when you do that, you endanger everybody else around you. And that's why, like, the banning of abortions. I mean, number one, it's a conversation we shouldn't be having 40 years or 50 years, however, 50 plus years after Roe versus Wade. Like, the conversation's done. Yeah. Why are you impeding progress? Why not? Okay, well, this law is in place. Let's make it so fewer people have to get abortions. What can we do to do that? Like, because that's the goal. The end game. We're not working from the end game here. The end game is, what if like nobody had to get abortions except in extreme cases? What would that world look like? And then I'm not even talking like illegally. Like, what would that world look like, and how would we have gotten there? So let's build the bit around that.
I think it's safe to say that I'm hopeful that medical science will get to a point where we won't need to have this abortion argument ever again, because we won't need to have abortions. This will look very archaic someday, inevitably.
Oh yeah.
Because I just don't think I do hate using that term, the other side. God,
I do too. But nobody likes using it.
Okay, so
there is another side, though. Just say it.
The opposite. I guess the opposite mental frame of reference for these people. Like, what do they think that they like? We're so pro abortion that we're like, yes, everyone get abortions, and like, oh, like if you take abortions away, like we're like, or we didn't come up with a different solution. Like, let's say, for instance, we got safe sex to a point where the only pregnancies that really do occur are wanted pregnancies. We've solved that one issue. So therefore, like, abortion does become obsolete. What do you think we're going to be complaining the fact that, like, oh, abortion's obsolete? How can we live in this world? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
what does this come down to?
Yeah, what?
It comes down to lying. They're lying.
Right.
They lie they bend the truth, but they justify it through the fact that, well, if I lie, at least God will win. And it's like, no, but you're lying. Yeah. You're lying about how bad everything is. Everything has been mischaracterized to create. It's getting to the point where people are dying now.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
Yeah, because you haven't solved the fact that, like, see, abortions will still happen. You've just now made them less safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Which will cause 2 deaths as opposed to, I guess, 1. If you view it that way, which I don't. Like, I don't view a fetus as a life. So, my value is in the person who is experiencing this place where they feel it's necessary to have an abortion, but yet we're 3 white guys trying to solve what is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the basic human condition. It's the basic question.
Okay, now I want to say something. There's
the N word.
I could have said it before when we were, but here's a good way of explaining what is a healthy way of going about discourses. I want people to grill me. Like, grill me. Mm-hmm. Let's challenge me. Let's sort it out. And I will admit when I'm wrong. And I like doing that, because then when you admit you're wrong, you can then be right, or at least less wrong than you were before.
Right.
You know? And it's
you're right,
it's that
faster.
Simple.
Yep.
Right. Just let's have a discussion. That's both me asserting my confidence, but it's also a way of being like, hey, you can, if there's something wrong, then bring it up. Let's talk about it.
Are you willing to rethink your position?
Be willing to be open to scrutiny. Scrutiny is the best way for anything to be proven more true or less true. That's how they do peer review. I want the peer review process to be brought on me in a philosophical sense and not in a scientific sense.
Right.
So just go have at it. Destroy me. Do it. That's what makes me stronger in my, understanding of the world, Have someone smarter than me come up and challenge all my beliefs. I want that to happen. It's interesting and it's fun and it's, I don't know.
Right. Don't determine your beliefs based off of Sherry from across the street.
Right. You got to poke that stuff. You got to really go in there and drill it and test its straw. The house made of straw versus the house made of brick. You got to have a brick house. You got to have people constantly testing the tensile strength of your argument, or whatever. But,
yeah, and it's way more rewarding if you open yourself up to that. Jesus,
and then let people watch, and then they will learn something, and then test their,
Yeah, information cuckolding.
Only when you challenge your own beliefs can you discover new things, and like
it's cuckolding because a lot of people I argue with are cuckoo.
Yeah, I'm cuckoo for cuckolding.
That's what that came from. Is the cuckold is a thing that the cuckoo bird does.
Nice.
But then there's also the clock thing and the crazy.
Well, it's just so frustrating having to constantly disprove the misinformation to somebody who's already bought into it. Because here's a constant thing that happens to me with my parents is that they'll show me this information or what they both perceive as true from some sort of Facebook, YouTube, oil salesman, doctor, and then I'll show them peer-reviewed medical information, and then they go, well, let's just agree to disagree, or, we could say that your information is just as false as ours. And it's like, yeah, you can say that, but you would be fucking wrong for saying that, because these are trusted medical journals, not a guy who calls himself doctor and he's a chiropractor. Like if I'm having problems with if I'm having like chest pains and severe headaches, I'm not going to a chiropractor to solve those issues. I'm going to a physician who's going to probably recommend some sort of specialist if he can't figure out what the problem is. So medically, that isn't even sound.
I have a lab coat here. I'm just going to get on YouTube and be like, bees will solve COVID. You have to get stung a certain amount of times in a certain amount of ways. And if it doesn't work, well, then you didn't listen to me.
And then your slogan will be, that's right, honey.
What?
Your slogan will be, that's right, honey. Bees will solve everything. That's right, honey.
But buy my honey.
Buy my honey.
It's proven to beat COVID. Jesus.
You don't know how happy I am that Joe Rogan got COVID.
Yeah, but he's using ivermectin to fight it. And
yeah, how did this, in my mind, came out of left field, this ivermectin thing. I'm caught so off guard by it that I don't even know how to process it. Because to me, it sounds like a lot of this stuff just sounds to me like jokes, and it's so serious and so real for a particular set of people. But in my mind, if somebody said, "Oh, you're not feeling well, take this horse dewormer, that'll make you feel better," and you'd think that's like a setup to a well-crafted joke.
Yeah, I saw a post on somebody who's a little more conservative, and it was like, well, if ivermectin isn't effective, then why do they make people who are coming from Africa take a dose of it first? And how, number one, I didn't look into the validity of that claim.
Yeah.
But number two, hydrochloroquine is something that you take for like malaria. So I feel like ivermectin is something to help your digestive system adjust to the different types of foods.
Or how it's processed here in America.
Yeah. So it's like, Those are two totally different things. COVID and like adjusting your gut or whatever to food, it's like they'll find any connective tissue and be like, see?
Well, yeah, it's just funny because now the big thing was we're not going to take it because it's not FDA approved.
Nah.
And then when it became FDA approved for at least Pfizer, then they had to pivot to a new excuse.
Yeah, there's no reason. You can't reason with an emotional argument.
Steve, wasn't it you who posted about how, like, 9% of Congress got vaccinated, Trump got vaccinated.
All the governors.
Yeah, I took that down because it flagged and it was saying like, oh, this isn't accurate. So I was like, oh no. So I tried looking it up because I had deleted it before I actually went back into the fact checking. So I couldn't re-find it. So I wasn't able to actually see what was inaccurate about it, or it was missing context.
Yes.
What it was. So that's why I took it down, because I was like, oh shit, I don't want to post stuff that I don't want to be.
I was wondering about that. Like, how would you know? Like, it's not like most politicians are going forward, especially if you're a Republican, going forward and saying that they got vaccinated. And then when they're asked or pressed upon about it, then they go, well, that's between me and my doctor, whether or not they constantly dodge the question or stating whether or not they really did get vaccinated.
Which I think means that they did in a lot of cases, because they don't want to, in the case of Republicans, lose their base.
Right.
Oh yeah, that's all it is. Even if they believe that the vaccine is effective, they're not going to outright say that.
Because that's
it's more about money than ideology for them, or something.
I just don't understand the motivation behind telling people to not get vaccinated and to like what really drives if you constantly say this and a lot of your constituents end up getting sick and or dying, then you have no one left to vote for you.
Well, I think they would lose more people. They would rather lose people's lives than lose more voters, even more voters that switch sides. Because this is the thing: if you have a voter die, they didn't go to the Democratic Party; they went into the ground. But if you have someone that goes, oh, they really did get vaccinated. Oh, I've had the wool pulled over my eyes this whole time. I'm going to become a Democrat now. I'm going to vote Democrat because they clearly have they are actually right about this. Then you've not only lost a voter, but you've gained a voter on the other side. So that's more effectively negative for your campaign than it would be a few people dying versus a lot of people leaving and going to the other side.
They are horrified to be primaried.
Yeah, give me Republicans or give them death. That's their shit. That's what they're going for.
They would rather them die because they really don't care about them. Actually, they just care about their.
I mean, I would argue to say that also Democrats don't care about us either. They're just better at pretending like they do.
Sure, I'm okay with that because again, I've abandoned them because I don't like being seen as binary or as being a false dichotomy. Where it's like, oh, I'm opposed to conservatives, therefore I'm a Democrat. Nope, sorry, no, sorry.
I guess that's the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, is that the Republican Party, they don't care about you and they don't see the benefit of your immediate well-being, where the Democratic Party, they don't give a shit about you, but they see the benefit of having you.
Right.
The political party, the two-party system is absurd. I
just feel like, because you know how like back in like the 90s we used to say that like, oh, the rock stars, they'll write songs about suicide or because they want to see their crowd like kill themselves or whatever. And it's like, what's the logic in that? Like, how does that benefit them by having a bunch of dead fans? Like, that's not
because they're Satanists and they serve Satan.
Right. And then in the same way, like, I feel like we're saying that about the Republican Party. Like, what's the benefit of them having a bunch of dead constituents? Like, who's going to vote for them if no one's alive to vote for them?
I think they have people advising them on what's most effective mathematically, and I think they're kind of sticking to a game plan.
Yeah.
And so whatever they do to optimize their votes through their philosophy of what is more effective, they have real smart people working for them.
It's like, okay, if you follow this doctrine and this amount of people die, and then if you can pass this amount of voter restriction through like Congress or through local channels of government, then you have a viable product to run the government for maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah. We have a serious problem with our government right now. It seems to some people, it seems like everything's rolling along just fine, but nope. We have a real problem with corruption and lobbying. That's the real issue.
Mm-hmm. Money cannot, in a functioning democratic society, money cannot play a role in politics, and it plays the biggest role.
We should have a government like the one they have in Seoul, Seoul, Korea, because they, at least they experimented with self-government, and it was really good at keeping people in check because no one had a central, there was no central power structure there. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, local governments, like our system is designed so that local governments have a lot of power, but
decentralized.
Yeah, and it's not working because there's so much money in politics. Like, I mean, all of our healthcare problems would be solved if those lobbyists were not involved. All of our energy problems would be solved if those special interests weren't involved. I mean, that's two big ones right there. And we'd be healthier and more innovative as a result. It's money's holding us back.
Yeah. I'm trying to look up the self-government.
Cash rules everything around me. Cream, get the money. $1 bill, y'all.
You can't laugh at that.